G'day from the beautiful south of France, where we've just had the Monaco Grand Prix. It was a fantastic weekend, but what is the future of the race? I'm going to talk about that and what happened during this weekend in 8 seconds' time. The Monaco Grand Prix is the jewel in the F1 crown, so it seems, but the future of the race is not secure. There are currently contract negotiations going on. I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But first up, I want to talk about Sergio Perez's amazing win in the weekend's race. He was very clearly affected up on the podium. There were tears and it went on for some time and it was lovely to watch. And perhaps this was the redemption for the last race in Spain where he was asked to yield to Max Verstappen. And of course, in normal times, when a Red Bull driver wins the Monaco Grand Prix, they end up in the energy station pool. Did it happen last night? You bet it did. In fact, I waited up there for an hour or so because there was a protest, as you may remember, and eventually it was dismissed and the results stood. So with all of the Red Bull team assembled, including Max and Christian Horner, Checo came up the stairs and without notice did a somersault into the pool with the Mexican flag. It was great to watch. Was he the first one into the pool? No. Before he even got up there, a couple of the crew wrestled another one into the pool against his will. There was more of that to come. After Checo got himself out of the pool, there was a standard 1, 2, 3 yay shot, and then Checo went to a whole host of people and shook their hands and hugged them and ended up throwing most of them in the pool as well. Some very much against their will. This person did not want to go in. But, of course, everybody went in. I was a little bit fearful that I was going to get involved. I had 2 cameras around my neck, I had a phone and a dongle in my pocket, so I stood well back. But the Red Bull photographer Mark Thompson didn't avoid it. He was wrestled into the pool, as were so many. And then there were shots while they were in the drink, having a great time. PR staff and hospitality girls, yep, they were roped in as well. And then it was downstairs to see some of the fans. And at that point, Luis Alvarez, Checo's manager, asked me if I'd come down and take some shots, which I did. These were the resultant pics. And I tell you, his trainer, Xavi Martos, was over the moon. Did Christian end up in the drink? Yes, he did. What about Max Verstappen? Nope. Avoided it. For me, that was a real privilege to document it photographically. I think there were only about 8 or 9 photographers up there. So thank you to Red Bull for their hospitality. If you like any of those images, you can get them at prostarpics.com. They're not works of art as such, they're no Monets or Picassos, but if you were interested in investing in fine art, I'm going to tell you about Masterworks. Masterworks was founded on the concept that iconic art tends to go up over time in value, and while previously art has been the domain of the super wealthy, now it's available through Masterworks for you to own a fraction of a piece. Masterworks is the platform for investing in contemporary blue-chip art for just a fraction of what millionaire and billionaire investors spend. If you can't afford a Picasso or a Banksy or a Monet, you can now buy a share of one. And over time, art can be a marvellous investment. Since 2017, Masterworks has exited 3 offerings, offering net annualised returns of 32% in 2020 and 31% in 2021. And if you don't want to wait until a piece is sold, there's a secondary market on Masterworks' website where you can sell your shares. It's an investment though, and not everything goes up in value, so do your homework. If you're interested in investing in art and you'd like priority access to Masterworks, click on the link in the description below and check it out.
Subscribe to Kim Elman.
Let's get back to why Monaco is not secure with its future for holding Formula One. For a start, they get it for about half the price that a lot of other tracks pay. Now, that has to be renegotiated. They need to be flexible with their dates because F1 wants to move things around a bit. Another thing, Monaco does their own TV, which often doesn't gel with what F1's telecast looks like. Case in point, they cut away from Sergio Perez's spin on Saturday. There may be a reason for that, but F1 wants to keep the coverage the same as the other races. Monaco's F1 rights sees them getting a lot of the signage revenue, and that sometimes irks F1's major sponsors, the likes of Rolex up against Tag Heuer. The track needs some changes, there's no doubt about that. At the moment, Monaco doesn't want to change the track. Yes, they put in new pit buildings and they needed those because previously they were quite ordinary. And the paddock itself? Well, it's a mess. And unfortunately, there's very little room. There were a lot of people in there on the weekend. It was busy. Drivers had to run to get anywhere because there's this long walk from the hospitality suites out to pit lane, and they just get bombarded with people wanting selfies and autographs. And what about the public transport? It's a nightmare because people wanting to leave the track after 10, I think, on Saturday night, were finding that there were no trains running. And I got, I think, 3 or 4 people contacted me saying, we know you're in Menton, can you give us a lift back? Which I already had a car full of people. And when it comes to the teams having to operate, well, they're tight for space. Case in point, some of the teams had to travel 15 kilometres to the refrigerated vans to get their food for the team's people. And speaking of food, The media centre offerings are paltry. This in the morning, this for lunch, and never enough. And while we don't expect gourmet food, we do expect to be able to get something because we can't go anywhere else to eat, unfortunately. And of course, accommodation in Monaco, being so scarce, is crazily priced. You'll pay 4 to 10 times more on F1 weekend for accommodation. Outside of the track, the streets are tiny and they're chock-a-block with cars, and that's just a factor of Monaco. It's beautiful to see, but it's very tough traffic-wise. It's also a rarity because traffic can travel on the actual track at night. They open it up. Rascasse becomes this nightclub area. And on Sunday night after the race, they have to close off half the street to get the trucks in to allow the teams to pack their stuff up and go. So there are plenty of logistics problems that F1 and the teams have to come to grips with. But on the other hand, it is a spectacular looking venue to hold a race. I myself love shooting it. I think photographically it's a real winner with the tunnel, the boats, the crowd. And when you look out here, every one of those people is spending hundreds, if not thousands of euros to be there that day. There's no doubt it's a spectacle for the fans, and F1 does love Monaco, but I think the Monaco Automobile Club is going to have to do some bending on this issue. Let me jump to race day now, and it started off in the morning with driver arrivals. They came from all different directions. I've got a video coming up about how they got to the track later this week if you're watching this on release. On the grid it was hectic as usual. Plenty of celebrities there, the likes of Patrick Dempsey, Kit Harington, Liam Cunningham, Simone Ashley, Jacob Elordi. LeBron James, said to have been around. I think he was on a boat though. And on the day prior, on quali day, we had Conor McGregor in absolute fine style. He was on, dressed in this flimsy Versace outfit and more than happy to show off his tattoos. He was lapping up the attention and loving every minute of it. And on my post I put up, I couldn't believe the number of negative comments that he got from Irish. Apparently not well liked in his home country. Where was he staying? On board his Lamborghini boat, which was parked just outside the paddock. It's an impressive looking vessel. A couple of other things I noticed on the grid. George Russell was given a frozen towel by his trainer instead of a wet one. Turns out a few minutes after being given that, the temperature dropped dramatically, and then we had the rain, which caused a 1 hour delay to the start. I had no wet weather gear. I had to scamper back to the media centre and then back out to my spot to shoot the start. Once again, there was a huge crowd up on the hill watching events. Now, I did actually think that was free entry. It's not. You do pay a fee and you can sit either in the grass or go right up to the top up near the Prince's Palace. And I think it was 100 or 200 euros for those tickets. What girlfriends were at the track this weekend? Well, I think almost all of them, including Nicholas Latifi's girlfriend Sandra Jivashek, George and Carmen, Carlos and Issa, Lando and Luisa, Valtteri and Tiffany, Fernando and Andrea, Max and Kelly, Charles and Charlotte, plus Charles' mum, Daniel and Heidi, and Esteban and Elena. On Friday, I took this photo of Angela. There's a bit of a story behind this. Sebastian was walking with Christian Diendorfer, who was the gentleman on the right. Christian had mentioned that he had the phone number for the Frankfurt coach. They'd won the Europa title the night before. And so Seb said, "Can I ring him?" So he gave him the phone, did a FaceTime call. Angela saw what was going on, bombed the call. That's the story. I shot Parc Fermé in the podium from the tower. And looking down, I could see the sheet music for Checo's national anthem and for the manufacturer's national anthem. And normally for the celebration, they use a recorded piece of music, which is Bizet's opera Carmen. But for this race, the band plays the music. Of course, the sad story of the weekend was definitely Charles Leclerc not being able to capitalise on his pole position. Mick Schumacher's crash, nowhere near it, I'm afraid. Lando Norris did well, despite the fact he's still not 100%. I thought he looked quite pale and was not his normal bubbly self. And on a brighter note, congratulations to two friends of mine, Marcus Ericsson for winning the Indy 500 and Pato Award for coming in second. I've got a great video about Pato Award coming up shortly. Thanks for staying with me today, and thanks to my VIP members. This is one of them who introduced himself to me at the track on the weekend. You get a whole host of extras as a VIP member. You can only join, though, on a laptop in some countries, so head to your laptop and click the join button next to subscribe. All my digital images, prostarpics.com, wall art, merchandise, photo books, and I've still got a handful of these prints, signed and framed, sent to you almost anywhere in the world. Once again, kimelman.com. Thanks for watching, and stay passionate. But what is the future for... That's a fucking train. The very first thing I record.